I see my name in shining lights. Yeah, a different city every night. Oh, I swear the world better prepare for when I'm a billionaire.
It's time to get down to business on the weekend's #1 business program. Known as the King of Networking, your host Shalom Klein has worked with thousands of entrepreneurs and created countless jobs. So, to success. Let's get down to business.
And indeed, we're all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship in business. We talk a lot about business here. I'm with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website, shalomklein.com. And while you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you'll not want to miss. So let's jump right in. I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Amy Mednick, a psychiatrist working in her own private practice. She received her medical degree with distinction in research from Albert Einstein College of Medicine and Bachelor of Science in Brain and Cognitive Science from MIT. She specializes in the overlap between the humanities and neuroscience and leads a lecture series for psychiatric residents in training, social workers, and psychology trainees. I'm super excited to be joined because she has a new book. It's called Humanizing the Remote Experience Through Leadership and Coaching, Strategies for Better Virtual Connections, something that I know I am fascinated about. Amy, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we certainly know that remote work and learning and socializing are indeed here to stay. The statistics are telling us a lot of people want to work from home. A lot of people are now forced to work from home, but there are some red flags. Amy, what led you to write this book?
Well, my co-author and I, just like most of the rest of the world, were forced to move all of our work online as well during the COVID pandemic. I was seeing my patients online. She was seeing her clients online. We were both teaching students online. And this book idea came up and we decided to delve into it, even though it was actually still pretty early in the pandemic. So we didn't really know what we were doing either. So this was sort of a living work in progress as we figured out, what was going on with our own remote experiences, what the problems we were having, what problems our clients were having. We really dug into what's going on here. Why is this so hard for our brains? And as we lived it, we figured out why it was so hard, and then moved on to figuring out what to do about it and coming up with some strategies to make it more human. Like you said, it's here to stay. So if we're going to be doing it, how do we do it right? How do we do it the way that best serves us and our clients and our businesses and all of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the statistic that I saw from McKinsey and Company's American Opportunity Survey is that 58% of Americans now have the option to work from home at least one day a week, while 35% can opt out of the office and work from anywhere for the full 5-day work week, which I find absolutely fascinating. And I know you write in the book, again, it's called Humanizing the Remote Experience Through Leadership and Coaching, Strategies for Better Virtual Connections, just published in September, that humanizing the remote experience involves meeting the innate human needs for connection, safety, and comfort, understanding, and belonging. So what are some of the warning signs or signals that a particular need is not being met?
Yeah, so we identified for each of those basic needs that you just mentioned. How do we know when there's a problem there? So with our need for safety and comfort, that's a basic need that comes from just the way humans are wired. We're safest when we're around other people. So our question was, if we're on with other people all day on a Zoom call, do our brains really know that other people are around? Or, it can be kind of confusing. And if that need is not met, you're kind of in a more hyper vigilant fight or flight, or, a little shy of that, kind of ready for something to go wrong, ready for danger. And that interferes with your ability to focus. So that's going to come across as difficulties staying on task, difficulties with attention. When your need for understanding is not met, basically like the brain is designed to be able to make sense of the world, to be able to make sense of other people and interactions and what's going on out there. And we're
Hmm.
hardwired with a lot of really awesome shortcuts to help us to do that because the world and people are complicated. Those shortcuts were not designed for Zoom. They were designed for a 3D world with body language and lots of cues and signals that we use to make sense of things. So when those are translated to a 2D world of Zoom, they just don't work as well. And what ends up happening is without those signals, or when they're missing, or when things kind of get distorted, because you're reading someone who's on a flat screen, you can't see the rest of their body, you don't have the same eye contact. That's where I believe a lot of Zoom fatigue comes from, because you're making your brain do way more
Sure.
work than it would be
So, what are
doing.
some ways that we can effectively manage our energy and avoid that overload and burnout that you just mentioned that we all have experienced when we're interacting virtually?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways, and half of the book is strategies on how to fight some of these problems and work with them. Um, I'll outline some general strategies that the individual can use, and there's some other ones we give for leaders. Um, this is harder. You're asking your brain to do something that is not entirely natural for it. You're doing more work. So it's essential to not keep pushing and pushing. And it's so easy to keep pushing when our Zoom meetings are back to back, right? When we can go so directly from one thing to the next and not get up and take a walk. We can do that in Zoom. And it's really important that we not do it to what extent we can. So listening to your body, getting up, taking breaks. Breaks are so essential to positive cognitive functioning. You should be taking a 15 to 20-minute break for every 90 minutes of hard work that you're doing. And a lot of us
Hmm.
do not do that. Another thing that's important is same thing, because the Zoom kind of lends itself to just everything blending together, one meeting to the next, home tasks with work tasks. We really have to make an extra effort to maintain boundaries and keep things separate between work and home, more so than ever before. That was easy when you had to drive from work to home. Like, you couldn't do anything during your car ride. You were in two different places. Those boundaries were kind of obvious. You don't have to think about them. You have to think about them now, because if you don't, everything, like I said, kind of is just going to blend together, and that's not good for productivity and really good cognitive functioning, and for relaxation, and for being home and being present with your family.
Sure.
So kind of making an extra effort to figure out, how am I going to demarcate this as my workspace and this other thing as my home space, whether that's using the space that you're in, or using your time in a different way. Getting up, and I encourage my clients to get up from their desk at the end of the day, if it's at home, and walk around the block, make that their walk home from work.
Yeah,
And do a
totally.
routine like that every day, to give your brain that message that, okay, now the work part is done, and now we're closing that, and we're home to relax.
I'm chatting with Dr. Amy Mednick, a psychiatrist working in private practice, who, together with her co author, wrote Humanizing the Remote Experience Through Leadership and Coaching Strategies for Better Virtual Connections. We're going to link to the book very, very shortly. But really, really interesting to learn all about this. I want to talk about stress for a
Mm.
moment. You talk in the book about the stress response and how the human brain can effectively face and resolve stress, and that's something that certainly we all experience. Certainly now in this era that COVID is a reality, but I think that a lot of us are coming back to some new realities, both in the economy as well. We all face stress, and I think that would be a great homework assignment for everybody to sort of take at the end of the year. So, how can we effectively face and resolve stress?
The essential part is that facing and resolving. And stress is here to help us, right? To get that rush of adrenaline, to get that dedicated focus. That's what stress is designed for, to help to fix a problem and address it, and then move on and resolve it. What we're all kind of facing right now is a lot of chronic stress, where you have this stress response and this adrenaline running, and the problem never really fully gets fixed. So you're sort of sitting in this chronic cortisol state all the time. So it's really important to recognize that you are in that chronic state. Because actually resolving the stress cycle can be, kind of simple. It's realizing that you're there, that you're kind of, your stress is not directed anymore. It's not helping you. It's not making you driven. It's kind of just making you, scattered or overwhelmed or tired. And then
Sure.
very simple things, which we go through in the book, like, breathing exercises, focusing
Great.
on physical activity. There's a reason why doctors are always recommending those things, because that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing that
Well,
helps
Amy, I don't want
resolve
to
it.
give away all the secrets because we
Thanks.
want to send people over to the book, and there's so much in there. It's a guide. It is a guide, and I can't wait to get all of our listeners over to your website. So how can we get in touch with you, and how can we pick up a copy of the book?
Yeah, my website is dramymednick.com, DRAMYMEDNICK.com. There's a link to the book and the book page there, and lots more information that you can read. So please visit, and contact page there too. Feel free to drop me a note as well.
Well, fantastic. Dr. Amy Mednick, thank you so much for joining us on Get Down to Business. I look forward to getting a copy of the book and being in touch soon. Again, happy holidays to you, and thanks so much for joining us. We've got to squeeze in a quick break here on the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. We will be right back.